All right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Waters Run Deep podcast. Been a little leap since we've recorded due to life and things happening, but here we are back at it again. Hopefully, going to get back into the stroll of things and start kicking out some like we were there for a bit. Today I'm joined with Amanda, Angela, and JMO, and we have no idea what we're talking about. Amanda is the only one that knows, and she's going to be telling us here shortly. First, remember to rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. That really, really helps us get out there and get people to find us. Tell your friends, family, postal worker, all that fun stuff.
All right. So before I tell you the topic, I wanted to talk a little bit about, I'm not sure if this is wacky world news, but this is my news story for today. And I don't know if you all follow this because I'm not sure how much you follow Florida Man stuff, but every day I follow this account called on Instagram. It's like Florida Man or like Florida person or whatever. But he talks about how every day there's a new person hit by the Bright Line train. Have you heard about this?
Bright Line train?
No.
Okay, so Bright Line, there was literally one yesterday. Bright Line fucking hit another person. Okay, so the Bright Line is a train that is a fast train that goes from Orlando to like Palm Springs, Fort Lauderdale. It's really awesome if you're trying to like take a cruise or go to Disney. And then eventually it doesn't go exactly.
Isn't Palm Springs in California?
No, they have one in Florida.
Do they?
Palm Beach. Palm Beach is in Florida.
Yeah.
Okay. Where's the Palm Springs in Florida? Anyways, it goes to Fort Lauderdale. So it's really nice if you fly into like the Orlando airport and you can take the trains like 2 hours, if that, to Fort Lauderdale. Like super fast. It only right now goes to the airport, but it's being expanded and will go eventually to the convention center, which is basically Universal. And then they're also going to expand it, to go across to Tampa. So it's in essence super cool, especially for like if you like to visit Florida. If you're like me, where I have family in Tampa and then I have family in Fort Lauderdale, it's super cool to get around. But I feel like it's important to mention that since the train has been like established, where is my facts? Sorry. Which was in 2017 is when they first started it. And at least 364 people in Florida have been killed by all different kinds of trains since then. But since 2017, 97 of those people were killed by the Bright Line trains. And that data was about a month ago, give or take. And I can tell you in the last like 6 days, more people have been killed. So that tells us that we're almost at 100 people have been killed by this Bright Line train.
So what are these people doing on the tracks is my first question.
Yeah.
Great question. Like literally.
Chasing gators.
So let's talk about the train a little bit. Okay. So it's mostly happening in the same sort of area, which is in Melbourne, Florida. And most of the time, it's a high-speed collide that is picking up people at a certain thing. And what they're thinking is that either it's somebody in their car that's trying to go around the track and is not seeing the train coming and getting hit. So they're ignoring all of the like signs that there's a train coming. And this is a high-speed train, right? So this is faster than like the chugga chugga choo-choos. This is like chugga 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 chugga. And the track is, okay, so it says the north-south track that Bright Line uses runs through a dense populated portion of Melbourne. And for our Australian listeners, in Florida, we do call it Melbourne, or I know that in Australia, they call this city Melbourne. We call it Melbourne here. So this is, yeah, exactly. So it runs from Miami to Orlando. I'm sorry, it goes all the way down to Miami. The train does blare a horn when it's approaching an intersection or cutting through heavy populated areas. And there are gates that come down to block the traffic. That does not mean that people are not paying attention, because reports have been given of pedestrians being hit by these trains, which are traveling 70 to 80 miles per hour through downtown areas and up to 130 miles per hour in the open freelance of the world.
Holy cow.
So, yeah.
So they're getting hit in their car, though. So most of these people are getting hit while they're...
Not all of them. So on October 19th, we had a woman in her 60s who was struck and killed by the train near an intersection. That one was in her car. We had another one on December 24th. 36-year-old woman was struck and killed by the train at the same location, also in the car.
So they're just doing population control in Melbourne, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, my favorite are the people who are not in cars. There are 3 people on this list who were not in cars, who were literally hit as a human by a train going 70 to 80 miles per hour. There's nothing left of you. That's how fast they're going.
No, that's obliterating everything.
It's a little bit of Darwinism there.
This is my favorite statement.
Exactly.
The Brightline train has killed more people per mile in the U.S. and more people in Florida since its founding in 2017 than any railroad company.
Holy shit.
Yes.
Wait. They're saying this train has killed more people than them actually building the railroad.
Yeah. Killed more people in Florida per mile. It is like the highest record. So if we're looking for a serial killer in Florida,
it's the Brightline
train has the record. It has killed more people. So some of the questions that I really enjoy about this article, and I have a couple more articles about this, but this one is pretty great, is it has list of tips to not be hit by the train.
Pay attention. Is that number 1?
At the railroad crossing, slow down and approach with care. Listen carefully for trains. Look both ways, bend forward, see around obstructions. Be aware of your surroundings and be prepared to stop. Do not enter the crossing unless you can drive completely through it without stopping. Keep driving through the crossing even if the lights flash and the gates come down. Who is stopping? Who is stopping?
Right. And why?
Leave at least 6 feet between your vehicle and the rails because trains are wider than you think. And then keep a cell phone handy for emergencies. If your vehicle stalls in the track, get out immediately.
Keep your cell phone for emergencies. Like, what are you going to do if you're stuck? You're going to call somebody real quick? The fucking train's coming.
The train is a-coming.
Unless you're calling Superman, then I don't know, or the Flash. I don't know who the fuck you're calling, but
I don't have them on speed dial.
Jeez.
That's their preventative measure comments.
Yeah, it's funny. Okay, so now that this is like a continual thing, there is now an investigation going on because it killed 3 people in 1 week. And so the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, sorry, is opening an investigation involving 2 crashes about it. And it sounds like both of these crashes were car crashes based on like what the news is. But I'm just so intrigued because I guess my question to you all is, do you feel like, is this a person or is this a train company? Like, is it the railroad's fault Or do we believe that it's the person's fault? And I will let you know that none of Brightline's previous deaths have been found to be the railroad's fault. And they believe that most have been like suicides or pedestrians trying to run across the track ahead of the train, or drivers who can't wait and try to get around the gates.
I'm going with the people being negligent
Absolutely.
or suicidal.
Agree. I think as a preventative measure, the train company should look into putting more shiny objects around areas that are safer to maybe slow down some of the casualties here.
Right.
Yeah. Like I don't live by a train. I did for a very short minute, but like I kind of, when the train tracks are coming down, you're like, oh, the lights are flashing. I should stop.
Oh, the gate's down. Let me not try and go around it.
Right?
I have an idea to fix the problem. Put signs all around the tracks, because it's Florida, mind you, that say free vaccines.
If you cross this train, that means you aren't a fan of Ron DeSantis.
Yes.
It's just entertaining to me. And I feel bad. Please note that. Like, I feel bad for the lives lost. Like, that is really sad.
We're not making fun on somebody's death, but come on.
Right. I don't understand how. And when I first heard about this, I was like, oh man, that's crazy. That sucks. And then it was like, and another one, like DJ Khaled, like, and another one. And is it, I guess, again, my question, and they said some are suicides, but are some just like people thinking that they're better than the train? Our listeners, please listen to me. Listen to Aunt Amanda, Aunt Mimi right now. You are not a superhero and not faster than a train.
You mean they're not Superman?
No.
They're not more powerful than a locomotive?
Like, I don't know. And then the other day I was driving to work and I was going a different route and they bought breakfast burritos for some of the people at work. And I had to cross like some train tracks. We have a high speed train here that takes you into Denver. And I would just remember like thinking like, okay, Amanda, don't be one of these people that gets hit by the train. I'm like, I need to not beat these people. So
do you think they're like triple dog daring them too? Like, I triple dog dare you. I think you can beat this train around these gates. Do it. Do it.
Honestly, for the first 3, sure. But now that we're at 90, well, we're over 97. We're probably at like 105 now.
Well, you said 97%.
No, 97 people.
Oh God.
Yeah. So
it's just incredible.
Yeah, that.
Hold on. 5. Yeah, literally 5 people in the last month have been hit by this.
Is it all in the same portion of the tracks, or is it in different portions?
It sounds like they're mostly all in Melbourne. This one was January 28th, and it said, "Pull down the shades, y'all. It happened again."
All right, I have a quasi related question for the group here.
Yeah.
So, how many chuggas do you say before a choo-choo?
2?
Yeah.
So you say chugga chugga choo choo?
10.
Yeah.
That's a
Angela
lot.
Apparently is in the high speed. Angela's a great line choo choo.
I am.
I'm right in the middle at 6.
Holy
Chugga,
cow.
chugga, 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 choo choo. It's a lot of choo choos. That train just chugging.
No, it's a lot of chuggas, not a choo choo. It's only 2 choo choo.
That's like that Catholic meme of how many O's are in Gloria. Like, oh my gosh. Anyways, I felt like I needed to share that with you all. I encourage, keep a lookout. If it happens again, I'll let our listeners know. But like, and then a part of me, of course, is like, what can we do about this? Because this can't be sustainable. But I don't want the answer to be we take down Brightline, because that's actually really good. And apparently it's really like a lot of people are using it. When Adam and I were,
I don't think that's the answer.
No.
It's how do you keep people from doing dumb things? And that's the age-old question.
Yeah, can you?
Especially Floridians. Like, freaking Florida.
Sounds like the Melbourne area people need to be educated about the train.
Yeah. And it's
maybe they need to set up like train etiquette 101 for them.
Yeah.
Required town halls.
Yeah.
I feel like it's something off of Idiocracy.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, today's topic, let's give you a little insight on. So I, over the break, read a book. Read a lot of books, but we're not going to talk about all of them. And one of them I thought was interesting, and I was like, oh, this is a really interesting topic, and I'd love to know your thoughts about it. But then I was like, I don't want to get too political. So I thought I maybe would do a bigger conversation, and then we can like kind of throw in the topic of the book. So the book was called The Cult of Trump. Have any of you heard of it?
Oh, so we are doing this, but as a broader scale.
Yeah,
okay.
We were going to do Taylor Swift as a government psyop, but there's just not enough information out there yet. Maybe our next episode will be a Super Bowl one, and we'll talk about Taylor Swift being a government
Well, it could
psyop.
be that.
I think that's the whole reason why the Ravens lost is because they wanted Taylor Swift in the Super Bowl. And I don't even watch sports. I like football. I don't watch sports. I knew that.
The NFL Taylor Swift conspiracy.
What's his face was having a shit day.
The whole team was. That was an awful game to watch.
That was really hard to watch. Like Flowers was like fucking up. Yeah, that was difficult.
It's because they got paid off by the NFL not to win.
Because you want Taylor Swift in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The script writers are all about the Chiefs.
Next week we can do a whole conversation about fixed sports, and if Taylor Swift is a government psyop.
100%.
I'm kind of wondering if it's going to be like. So I have this theory that something happened in 2020, and we ended up going into the darkest timeline. And like, that's when like COVID happened, all of that, right? But I'm wondering because just like in 2020, it was the Chiefs and the 49ers, maybe we'll have a switch and we'll finally go back into the better timeline. That's my thought. But then I'm like, ooh, I hope that timeline does not include certain things that did happen in 2020 that I was happy about. So,
like what?
Like buying my house and a certain president not winning.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you getting married?
Oh, shit. I did get married in 2020, didn't I?
Oops.
Whoops.
Adam, if you're listening, I just forgot because we've had like 10 weddings. And I had a dream last night that we were going to have another one.
Oh.
And maybe that's what we should do. Have wedding number 4 at your wedding.
And in my dream, I called you and Erica to be like, don't come, I'm canceling. And you were already on the plane. Oh, fun times. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about cult, what a cult is. I love cults. So for our listeners, I am obsessed with cults. I think they're so interesting.
Amanda likes to make people join cults.
Yes, I've actually said multiple times that I probably would join one and or already in one. And we'll talk about what I mean by that. I think the power relation is super fascinating. And we've talked a lot about on this podcast about power and how power plays a huge role into a lot of things.
So, yeah, I just want to throw back. We did the whole cults episode in season 1. It's episode 17. So maybe not give a whole recap on.
Well, thank you for educating me, Angela. I already planned on that. We were actually going to play a game called Cold or Not Cold.
Oh, okay.
But for our listeners who maybe forgot, because they have busy lives, they're getting hit by Brightline. I just wanted to give a little bit snippet of what a cult is, but then we're going to play a game, and then we're going to actually talk about a couple things regarding the rise of power of certain individuals. So a cult is an organized group whose purpose is to dominate cult members through psychological manipulation and pressure strategies. They typically have a powerful leader who isolates them. And then some individuals in the cult are lifelong members, while others might break free until they probably fell being brainwashed, etc. We have some awesome people who have done a lot of research about cults. Stephen, oh no, Amanda forgot his last name. I can't remember his last name. He actually studies them and then used to be in one called the Moonies. So pretty interesting. Recently, what we've seen from cult members, we usually, when we think of cults, we think of like Scientology, some pretty crazy like FDLS, which is the Mormons. I've been listening to like the Duggars recently, like a Duggar podcast. If you listen, the 19 Kids and Counting, we're part of LVIP, which is also a pretty large, interesting like Christian cult.
That's just too many kids.
Too many kids.
Too many babies.
Many. And I can't imagine. The podcast I listened to actually refers to the mom from 19 Kids and Counting as Baby Cannon.
Baby Cannon. Wow.
Yeah. Which is pretty hilarious.
It's like the way she thinks her, you know what's a t-shirt gun.
Popping them out.
Pow!
And I think the most recent one, obviously, is the Nexium or NXIVM one that we've heard about, which had that woman from Smallville. So, a couple of things I think are important when we talk about cults. I don't know if we hit on this in our episode, whatever Angela said it was, 17 of season 1. Oh, wait till the episode said season. We must have been on our game then. Was how to recognize.
I think it was just we didn't decide whether to do a season 2 or not. Like if we were going to change seasons or not.
Oh, okay. So according to the Cult Education Institution, which I need to figure out how to get a part of that institute because that sounds super fun.
Right.
There are specific.
That can be your retirement dream job.
Right. There are specific warning signs to look out for when considering whether a group might be a cult. So I'm going to tell you these, and then we're going to go through some groups, and you guys are going to decide if you think they're a cult. And I'll give you some history on why I picked those groups. Sound good? All right. So we have absolute authoritarianism without accountability. So what that means is that the person or people in charge are the end all be all alpha and omega, but they cannot be held accountable by others within the group. So there's no checks and balances. If we think of
there's totally a cult.
No, these are like things that are in a cult.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll talk about the cult.
Got it. Characteristics, and then you go into the game. Got it.
Zero tolerance for criticism or questioning. So you can't question them and say, well, why is this like this? A great example would be like Leah Remini with Scientology asking where certain people were and being told that's none of your business and then pushing it. Lack of meaningful financial disclosure regarding a budget. So money is just kind of happening. And when asked, where did that come from or where did that money go? None of your business. Kind of goes back to that questioning. It all kind of goes on each other if you think about it. Unreasonable fears about the outside world that have often involved evil conspiracies and persecutions. So I think Dreamo's giving me a look like, what does that mean, Amanda?
I had that same look too.
Yeah. So what that's saying, a great example is when we think about like IBLP, that's the Duggar people. They had these fears that the outside world was super corrupt and you can't put kids into like regular school because what they're being taught is very much against what the Bible says and what their beliefs are. And, it's wrong, kind of right or wrong, or it's against what we say is right. A belief that former followers are always wrong for leaving, and there's never a legitimate reason for anyone else to have to leave. So it's that idea of that suppressive person, or you can't talk to them because they have left the cult. I love this one. An abuse of members. So members are abused, whether that is psychological, physiological, physical, emotional, financial. A lot of times in cults, sexual, yes. A lot of times in cults, the part that maybe not be known or maybe is not thought about is the financial or the psychological, emotional abuse. Because it's sort of like, that's just how it is, right? Like we just give all of our money, like it's a group thing. And a great example, again, of that abuse of financial abuse is how we have in Scientology, they have folks who work and get paid like 20 cents an hour kind of thing. Records, books, articles, or programs documenting the abuse of the leader and group. So there are records used, like there's just things showing the abuse, but no one's really doing anything about it. Followers feeling they are never able to be good enough or will never reach that highest potential. A belief that the leader is right all the time. Regardless of what they do, they are always right. And a belief the leader is the exclusive means of knowing the truth or giving validation. So they are the only ones that know exactly what the truth is. They are the savior, they get the message, and they're the ones that can do that. Just to kind of like touch on a little bit more before we play into our examples is people join cults because either A, they don't know they're joining a cult. So they might be invited into something because they were like, oh, this seems interesting. People who are maybe it was something that they were said, hey, we can help you with maybe your mental issues, your substance abuse issues. They've had a past and they've sort of found like this might be a place for saviorhood, and then end up being a part of a cult and don't realize it till they're too far in. A really interesting story that I thought was in the book that I read, the author talked about how he was approached. He had just broken up with his girlfriend. He was in college. And he was at a bar and he was approached by these two really pretty ladies, women asking him if he wanted to come like hang out. And he was like, okay. So he went and hung out with them. And then he ended up, he said like 4 months later being brainwashed and was like a part of the Moonies. So, I mean, like it just happens, right?
Yeah, it just happens,
Just happens. People who join often have unresolved insecurities. So it could be, they maybe have been distanced from outside influences. They have been separated from the outside world. They're worried about things. And then they end up being brainwashed and feel like this is the only way. They are manipulated in joining. So another theory about why individuals join a cult is that the cult leader has promised rewards to them. And they believe if they continue to do this, they'll continue to get rewards. That maybe they are the victims based on other things. And then they this is the only way out. And then they get stuck and it's too difficult to continue on. All right. So now are we ready to play cult or not cult?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So our first one is just to get us kind of going. We're going to debate it a little bit. Do we think that Mormonism is a cult?
Yes.
100%.
You have to give your why or why not.
I think it is a cult because it touches on all those things. I mean, you're pretty much I'm trying to remember a few of the cues, but
you excommunicate people that have left. They're abused.
Right.
They're exploited.
So what makes it a cult versus a religion?
That's the tough one because with that mindset, like almost any religion could be a cult.
And that's how I personally feel about it. Is that it's funny, you know. I'm gonna call out Catholicism just because that's one of the bigger ones, but they always judge about like, oh man, weird Buddhist, this, that, and the other, or whatever other religion. They're quick to point, and it's like, man, you all do some pretty weird stuff too. Like you have little girls dress up in bridal gowns and get married to Jesus when they're like really little. Like that's super weird. Like, but definitely not a cult. Like.
I love that. So I actually picked this for a reason as our first one, because I agree. It's this weird thing of like cult versus religion. And how do you what's the difference, right? So we have known in the past couple of years that Mormonism and Scientology, and I also think, is it Satanism or satanic? I think it's Satanism is what they call it. I want to get it correct. Have recently been acknowledged as a religion. And part of that acknowledgement means that they don't have to pay taxes, which, fuck yeah.
Always a plus.
But yeah, what makes it a cult versus what makes it a religion? And I'll give you a little bit of what the experts say, and then we can think about what we say. So one of the experts, Ori Taver, who's a lecturer in the Department of East Asian Languages and Civilizations at the University of Pennsylvania, says that a cult versus a new religion is all based on a matter of perspective. So it's based on, do we feel like it meets all the things? Religion is, how does it appeal to the government? I think I just lost one of the aspects they said. And then, is it a part of already a legitimate religious landscape? So is it something that already exists in our religious world? Which I think is hilarious, because if we think about if this was, even 500 years ago, it would be a little bit different of a perspective than what it is now. So we've had religions happen all through time. There has always been some type of religion, and when we think about religion, a lot of it is very man-made. And as are cults. So what is the difference there? What do you all think?
I think it's my opinion, when you really start pushing, strict ideology that's, I don't know. That's tough. See, that's where it gets into tough. I mean, like when you get into the emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and things like that, and the extreme control in all aspects of your life. But see, you can almost fit some of those in with religion, like Catholicism or something like that.
Yeah, I think that is sort of where it gets weird. If we think about Catholicism, or I'm going to pick Judaism. I think it has a little bit more of a known for like the extremism. There are folks who are Jewish, who are culturally Jewish. So like my husband is culturally Jewish, but does not actually, we only practice holidays in which we can eat food. The other ones were like, we're okay. But his aunt is extremely Orthodox. It's like ultra Orthodox Jewish, which is not how they were brought up. That's just a choice that she made. With that, we were not allowed to invite her to one of our 4 weddings. She will never acknowledge me as her nephew's wife. She will never acknowledge my children. And then if any of her children were to have married, she has 12 children. So if any of her children or great-grandchildren were to have married outside of the Jewish faith, they would have been excommunicated.
Wow.
Or gone. That, to me, is a cult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where I think about...
It's taken into that extremism.
The tenets of Judaism is not a cult. And it's like, here's what we believe. If you believe it, cool. If you believe other things, cool. We're not going to like ignore you. Like Judaism's super open to like same-sex relationships. Like they have a really, they don't actually believe that a child is born, or that it's called a child until the child is born. So like, in essence, they're pro-choice. If that makes sense. Yeah. Is like, they don't even have like baby showers until after you have the kid. So that's very different. So I think that there's the extreme parts of religion that then become kind of cultish and has that financial, that abuse, all of that aspect. And I know it exists in Catholicism. I just feel like we don't talk about it as much. Like I know that like Mel Gibson's a part of like a super ultra conservative Catholic church. And like, what are your thoughts, friends? Should we move on to a harder one?
A harder one?
Yeah.
Learn the lines more.
Let's blur some lines. So we're going to go back a little bit into time. And I want to know your thoughts. Do you feel like Nazism or being a Nazi was part of a cult?
Well, that wasn't really religious per se, was it? Wasn't it more political?
Does a cult have to be religious? Did I say it had to be religious in our...
You didn't. There's a lot of the criteria of a cult that it meets.
So in Nazi propaganda, they focus on glorifying Adolf Hitler as the sole savior in order to save the country.
The Alpha and Omega.
It can be argued that it's not. I can absolutely see that argument, but could it be argued that it is? And do we still find remnants of it?
I think you still can kind of classify it as a cult in a way. I mean, if you're going by the extremism of what some groups are today with it.
I know when we say the N word, it gets a little quiet and for us white folks, especially us German white folks.
I say you Aryans over there.
I mean, I guess you could see it's a cult. I mean, you're following a one supreme leader. You know, you have all these things you have to follow. I could see it either way, really. I mean, it could be a cult or it could be just a ideology that went wild, you know?
Yeah, so maybe that's part of what a cult is, right? It's an ideology that just kind of went loose, and then all of a sudden you have this supreme leader who can do no wrong.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we're going to go over and talk about Senor Trump, Donald Josephine Trump, and see what do we think about him. Do we feel like his followers, can it be considered a cult, or could he be considered a cult leader?
I think the basis is there for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think the base is definitely there, but I think when you get into Q and stuff like that, like I feel like it's very cultish. Which it's not Q. Q is not directly related with Trump per se, but it does have Trump in mind for sure. I think there's more to it than just
that
Trump
is maybe
president, but
the current Republican Party or a part of that party. What do they call it? The MAGA party or whatever. I'm so bad, I'm not part of it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a big chunk of them that are, never Trumpers.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't classify the entire party. I will say that if they were to ever split, it would just totally obliterate their party because they would lose. They would be so, yeah, they'd be split in half. But yeah, I mean, enough of them, I feel, were quote unquote brainwashed, especially towards the end, to do some really silly shit.
So I thought this was interesting. One of the studies about this, and this is actually really a big topic right now. I think partly because, and I hope our listeners aren't turned off with us talking a little bit about politics. This is not intended to be like, vote this way, vote that way. I just think it's important that we examine where we are in the world and why we're here. So one of the experts who's been studying this, her name is Dr. Crockford. And she has published a journal called Implicit Religion. And she says to call Donald Trump a cult leader and the Republican Party a cult is to ignore and deny the overlapping beliefs about white evangelism, Christian nationalism, and right-wing politics held by some in the U.S. So I like what she's saying here is that Trump and the Republican Party, kind of like what you said, JMO, is we're forgetting about other aspects that have been brought into it, like other parts that kind of are part of other different cults, Christian nationalism, right-wing politics, white evangelism, which I would kind of argue are very similar to Christian nationalism. And so all of that kind of juxtaposes or has a juxtaposition of in the cultism of Trump. But Trump being portrayed as a cult leader is a little bit easier to accept than to kind of say, are there other beliefs that are a part of it? So, I'm curious in what you all think. So
I think every time. I was going to say, I think every time I'm on one of these episodes or on a podcast with y'all, I have like some sort of Simpsons reference that comes up, and the first one that comes up is leader.
Yeah. Yes. Well,
sorry, I had to interject that.
A part of like what I think when it comes to talking about this too is, okay, we go back down to like what's our top 10 list, right? So let's kind of go there. So is it an absolute authoritarianism without accountability?
Yes.
Well, yeah, but he's starting to be held accountable, but by not people in the group.
Right.
I don't know if you all know, but I know some people who are very much on the train of the Trump. And this is all a lie. All of his actions are just people. It's a witch hunt. So the accountability might not be there. I don't know. Zero tolerance for criticism or questioning.
Well, I mean, I think that's how they try to keep their power, right? Like, as if they get questioned too much, then it's going to show weakness in their leadership, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we saw when people would question, then they would be called names. They would be pushed out of their role.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard from again. This one I love because this one I feel like makes me chuckle. Lack of meaningful financial disclosure regarding a budget.
Yes. 100,000% with that one.
Let me see that tax return.
Right?
Oh. unreasonable fears about the outside world that often involve evil conspiracies and persecutions.
Let's build a wall.
Right? Very interesting, because we know based on research that we absolutely have an issue in the States with folks who are here not according to the rules. But a lot of them have outstayed their visa. It's not, there is issues at the border, but a lot of the number of folks who are here illegally, they would say, is because of visa outstaying. So still a problem for sure. But I actually, when I thought of that, that's where Q came into mind for me, Chris. Like that part, when you're talking about Q, that is the one where I thought about that. What were you doing, by the way?
He's finishing up lunch again.
It was like building a gun or something. And now we can't hear you. Nope.
What the fuck? Oh, there we go.
No, there we go.
Now I think that too. I think that when you get into the nitty gritty of Trump's beliefs, desires, and things as a president, I think that is where it aligns and starts to get entwined with Q for sure.
Yeah. And it's really funny because I think I've mentioned before, like Chris and I have this friend that we've had our whole lives who is basically a cult leader. Not sure how to explain it.
The one that we were talking about that one episode.
Yeah.
Or before the one episode.
And his most recent post, sorry, Chris, have you joined the cult yet?
No, but I'd love to have him as a guest.
Oh, I know. You might have to do that. I don't know if I can.
Oh,
but
man.
The interesting thing is he recently, and this could have been a month ago, and JMO, I'm sorry if you don't know what we're talking about. There's this kid that we grew up with. His mom and my mom are really good friends, or they were really good friends. And he posts some really great stuff on Facebook about this.
Extreme.
I don't even know how to explain it. And people are like, oh, you're the smartest in the world. Like, why don't other people see this? And I was like, because there's not enough peyote in this world for me to understand what level you're on.
Right.
And you live in Colorado.
Right. But none of it seems to be ill-tempered. So I just sort of think, I like read it and then laugh. But I actually get very intrigued. So I'm like, maybe there's like an essence that I can understand what he's talking about. But in a recent post, he actually mentioned how he no longer believed that Trump was the end all be all.
Really?
And then I was like, what? Like, what changed your mind? And I don't comment.
So does that mean he thinks he's the end all be all?
No, Jeff, or Malachi, what do we call him, Chris?
I thought it was Malachi.
Malachi is the name that he goes up by now, but his mom still refers to him as Jeffrey. No, he does not think that. He thinks that he gets messages from the divine and he has revelations, but he does not. I don't think that.
Is he Joseph Smithing? Is he getting his messages from his top hat up on the mountain?
His top hat
story. Oh my gosh! Yes, have you not heard about that with Mormonism?
I don't think I've heard this.
You've
part of
never
the story.
seen the South Park episode?
If I have, it's been a very long time.
Yeah, he wrote the Book of Mormon by looking in a hat up on the mountain.
Oh yes. Okay. Yes. I've heard this. Yes.
And all of that is like legit from the Book of Mormon. Like, it's that's like the Book of Mormon part. Yeah, it's a whole other episode. We could talk about Mormonism because there's parts that I'm like, okay, I can see it, but I'm like, you actually, okay, well.
Speaking of peyote.
Peyote, for sure. Anyways, so that's an interesting aspect. The other one I thought, the one that I think is kind of hard for me to like say, yes, that makes culty for like the cult of Trump is like abusive members. I don't know if I would say their members are abused.
I don't see for sure. I don't think that they're.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's kind of hard to.
Which then makes a part of like records, books, articles documenting the abuse of the leader. Like, I just don't think that one's really hard. The rest of them, I like never feeling like you're good enough. That one doesn't seem easy, but the belief the leader is right all the time. Yeah. And that the belief the leader exclusively knows the truth is interesting. And I think about this because Adam has said that for people who are truly believe that Trump is the end all be all, he is who should be the leader. Adam said, and I at first was like, no, I don't know if I believe that, but he would say that Trump could literally shoot your mother in front of you and you would still think he was the supreme leader. And I was like, no. But then I met some people and I'm like, ooh, maybe. I hope not. And that the part that makes me worried is then at what point do we go from this to what we just talked about with Hitler and the Nazism? And not that I'm saying Trumpism is Nazism. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the totalitarian of that they are the supreme leader. They know all, and I'll be all alpha omega. Yeah.
Was this all in your book?
Oh, and more. I didn't even touch
God.
The book is really interesting. Highly recommend it. It talks a ton about just cults in general. One of the interesting it talks about that I liked was the breakdown. It's not as big as I think we think it is, because that's why it's starting to break down now. And we're seeing cracks, and we're seeing what some would call justice being held accountable, or accountability, because not everyone's underneath of it and the power isn't there. But in the first chapter, second chapter, I don't remember, the author talked about when Donald Trump held his first cabinet meeting, everyone ran around and said how wonderful Trump was and how great it was to work with him. Now, I want you all to imagine, because we all work for people.
Hold on. That goes back, if you're saying that goes back to what the questionable characteristic of a cult.
Yeah. So I just can't imagine, right, going into, I work with our CEO. I actually do think our CEO is really awesome. I think he's great. I do not think that we would have a staff meeting where we would all go around and I would tell Matt how wonderful he is. First of all, he would be so uncomfortable, but also that is just weird to me. I wouldn't even do that on my church council. You did do that, Chris, at your...
No, I'm saying, wow, they would actually do that.
And it's on TV. You can find it on YouTube. It was a recorded first cabinet meeting, and they all went around and talked about how wonderful he was. And then we think about the abuse stuff, and Michael Cohen, we all know that name.
I was going to say, so out of all the people that were in that first cabinet meeting, how many of them were there at the end of his term?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Oh, I don't know. Let's put it up.
Excellent question.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
His kids.
Yeah, but I don't even think they were friends at the end.
No, right? Because he wanted to hang him. Let's do it this way. Oh, here we go. I love the archives. And I'll post a picture of his cabinet of all of them going around talking about how much they loved him.
That's like with extreme narcissism there, for sure.
Yeah.
That needed extra validation, and that's especially in like a political environment or any kind of professional environment. And even like you said, Amanda, I don't even think you do that in religion. Like, that's just super unusual.
No. Yeah, I mean, and so again, this is not to be political and to be like, he's crazy. This is just to point out that this happened and this is fact, and that maybe people don't aren't aware of it or didn't like. In all honesty, like I don't really pay attention to a lot of stuff happening because I don't have time.
Yeah.
So to kind of realize, oh, like maybe it's happening underneath my nose, and you're like, oh, okay. So when he initially was in office, the Secretary of State was originally Rex Tillerson, but then it became Mike Pompeo about a year later. Stephen Munchin stayed Secretary of State the whole time. Secretary of Defense changed. Attorney General changed. Senior Interior changed. Secretary of Labor changed. Secretary of Housing changed. Oh, no. Homeland Security. Sorry, housing stayed the same. Secretary of Energy changed. Secretary of Veterans Affairs changed. Homeland Security changed 3 times, actually. That's interesting. The UN ambassador, who was Nikki Haley, that position got downgraded from a cabinet level.
Oh, wow. So he even removed positions from the cabinets.
I wonder what she did.
We're up to 9, by the way.
OMB director. Yeah, OMB director changed.
10.
Officer of Military Bases, maybe? The CIA director changed.
11.
The EPA administrator changed. And the SBA administrator changed.
That's 13 people.
That's a lot of people.
That was 13 people out of how many? Especially if the one changed 3 times.
22 positions.
That's more than half.
Yeah.
Can we compare it to another president?
Yeah, pick a president, any president.
Kennedy?
I don't think Kennedy's a good one because he didn't serve a full term.
How about Reagan?
Sure. Okay. Do Reaganomics.
Reaganomics. Trickle down.
Right. Ronald
Thank
Reagan.
him for our mental illness crisis.
In our war on drugs. Thank you, Ronald Reagan.
In plastic bags.
I thought Nancy Reagan led that charge with Bush's wife.
Oh, maybe.
Thought that was the
obviously
whole...
he was.
No, that was the early 90s, wasn't it? With the parental guidelines, stickers and stuff.
Oh, that was
that's right.
Gore.
Oh, was it Tipper?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was the 90s though.
Okay. Here we go. I think this will help. I'm sorry, it wasn't as easy to find as Trump's was. Sorry, this is like it's like not as easy. And we're gonna maybe have to find another president. Try again.
W.
W. Love me some George W. Such a good painter.
Since he's more current in a sense.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like he had any change, actually.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's even more interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's normal to have people like leaving,
Well, what about Obama? Do one more. Just do Obama. Just a Republican to a Democratic. Or Clinton, yeah.
I think Clinton might be a little bit too. We want to know what my most recent Wikipedia search was. Besides cabinet of...
Yes.
Apparently, I was really curious about... there we go. About Napoleon.
Well, that kind of makes sense with the movie and stuff.
I think we also have to state that President Obama had 2 terms. So I'm only going to look at his first term because we're comparing it to President Trump's first term. Okay.
Yep.
So he had the Secretary of Defense changed. His Secretary
we're still looking at a total of 22 then in the cabinet.
Very good question. We are not.
Okay.
Because it looks like Trump added 3 extra people. So what's that, 19?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 19.
But I was going to say, with him adding 3, but he also subtracted the 1 position that was there. Was that one of the 3 or was that an existing position?
That was one of the 3.
Okay. So 2. So 20.
Okay. Yeah. So Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Commerce. That's it.
2 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And his second term, his second term is interesting because there were more changes, but it was because the people had extended past. So like, Stephen Chu, Secretary of Energy, was Secretary of Energy. Oh, he's a bad example. Secretary of Education, Ann Duncan was Secretary of Education, like all the way until like her final year. And then they brought somebody new in. So that she was from the beginning all the way until 2017. So, yeah. So just interesting. It's just interesting that is sort of happened. And if you want to look it up, it's a thing. Okay, we're going to move on to 2 more. I don't think, JMO, you were a part of this, so I don't think you'll be offended by this. Do we think fraternity and sororities are cults?
No. And I say that, and you know how I feel about this. There's no alpha and omega. I don't feel like there's an alpha and omega.
Okay. Yeah, I could buy that. Yeah, there's no like supreme leader. Yeah, I could buy that.
They're cult light.
Yeah.
Cult light.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've never been in a frat
there is there is some sort of accountability with them. So there is a checks and balance system in place. Amanda is, because she's in a sorority, so she would know all about the cult light.
I would, and that's why I was not picking up, because I wanted to hear your thoughts first. So yeah, there's definitely accountability that is held on all levels. So like it doesn't end all be all with certain aspects of it.
And is that internal and external?
Mm-hmm. If it's done properly, yeah.
Okay.
I would say most sororities have it. Fraternities are, well, get on board, buddies. I do think it's interesting because there can be abuse.
Yes.
And there is that like exiled of like, if you leave, do we not talk to you anymore? So I can see the cult light aspect of it for sure. I have a sorority. I still call her a sorority sister. She left the sorority when we were in college. She resigned or something. But I still call her my sorority sister because that's what she was. And she knows our secrets. I say in quotation marks because nothing exciting. We don't know like the end of the world. We're not going to tell you how to get to Xenu. But there isn't, I think the other part too is like, there isn't this financial aspect of like, yeah, you pay to be a part of it, but you're paying, also you get stuff in return. You're not just paying and not knowing where it goes. So the budgets are made clear. You can ask to receive them. You can, there's no like, you don't need to know that. So it's an interesting, an interesting thought of, is there behavior control? Is there information control, thought control, or emotional control? And I think the biggest part is there really isn't a leader itself. As being the leader of my sorority in both a chapter and national sense, I was not at any means an alpha or omega. Like, I knew nothing.
Well, that, and each sorority has that, or fraternity has that, right? So, yeah.
And I think that kind of also, if we can like expand that, if we think about like the Grand Mason, the Freemasons, the my God, I'm thinking of somebody else, but
that's what I was getting ready to suggest is Freemasons.
Stonecutters.
Stonecutters, yes. Like, that's another example, right? Are these like secret societies or societies? Are they cults or are they just like a society? And what is the sort of end all difference?
Yeah, I mean, when is it a political group, a religious group, or a secret society / club? Like, lots of blurred lines there.
What about the Illuminati?
Ooh.
Cult?
Well, that's an interesting one. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, is there a financial aspect in the Illuminati that can be paper trailed?
Does anybody know?
Exactly.
Right. I have no idea. No idea. But I will say that I think the other aspect is it's not your full life. Although for a while it was. I love being in my sorority. But it wasn't like I could have friends outside of it. I didn't have to like there wasn't the control aspect. Like there wasn't distorted information. There wasn't a propaganda that was lied about. I mean, we did joke. We did have names for people who were not in Greek life or fraternity and sorority life. They're called GDIs. So the three of you would be GDIs, which stands for Goddamn Independence. I think it's an old term from like the 70s.
How dare we be independent thinkers?
I know. I mean, that, and then again, that goes back, right? But I think that really does go back to like the 70s, 60s. I don't think that is a term used nor encouraged to be used in current life. The other funny aspect, so I talk about this a lot with my coworker and some people, because we joke that I would join a cult if given the opportunity. Or maybe I'm already in one. Because
definitely join a gang. So,
well, and then gangs are cults.
I think so to a degree. I think so. There's usually a supreme
adjacent for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's usually some type of financial. You don't know where it's all going. There's some type of initiation process. There's beliefs. You can't hang out with certain people. If people leave the gang, sometimes they're murdered and or excommunicated from that gang.
It's definitely a sexual aspect of it, for sure.
Yeah, for a lot gangs. Of them. Abuse, power. That's a big question, right? So I joke about that because I am involved in my church, although not as much as I was for a while, just because it got too time consuming. But it got very much to the like, we didn't see you this week. And I was like, yeah, big deal. You didn't see me. Obviously was part of my sorority. And then I do Junior League, which is a women's organization. But I don't care if you quit, that kind of stuff. Like, you do you, man. So I do joke that if I joined a cult, mainly it would probably be so I could become the leader of it. And that's just my internal quest for power. So, when people ask you, actually, I'm going to ask you this question. Okay. The zombie apocalypse has come. What is your role? Go.
So I don't know anymore.
JMO has his role already planned.
So zombie apocalypse, what is my role?
Yeah. How are you? How are you surviving and nor thriving?
I mean, I'm a planner or a leader by trade, so that's what I'm going to go towards. And my goal is to get to my dad's property, almost in Pennsylvania. He's got a bunch of guns and a lot of land and not a lot of people around him. So,
Okay.
I think I don't know if I necessarily be a leader. I mean, I could be a leader for sure, but I wouldn't be the first one jumping up there to be the leader. Probably would be the like gatherer or something, like going and looking for the supplies and whatnot, going out and doing that.
everybody says I look like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, so I'll just be Negan. Call it a day.
Go get you a Lucille.
Yeah. And she is sweet.
And
I don't even know anymore. I don't know, do recon or something.
I like it. I've already made my plan.
Amanda?
Adam will not make it.
Well,
he has already decided that he probably will not make it. And I'm fine with that. I will marry his friend Tweely, and we will be the king and queen of the underworld. And we'll either rule the zombies and make them our army, or rule you all and make you our army.
So are we talking fast
with you?
Are we talking fast zombies or slow zombies? Because that makes a big difference here.
Oh yeah, are we talking 28 days later zombies or Walking Dead, Night of the Living Dead zombies?
Honestly, I don't think either of those were possible. What I think is possible is what's that show on? It was on HBO with Pedro.
Oh, the Last of Us.
The Last of Us. I think that is how it's going to happen.
Those are fast zombies.
Those are creepy ass creatures.
And they all communicate with each other and
their clicks and stuff. Mm-hmm. That's how I'm going to become their queen.
Or vibrations through the ground.
Because they're plant-based, and the plants communicate with each other through their own little internal ecosystem.
Global warming is going to fight back.
Well, hopefully us folk with green thumbs will be saved.
I'm going to need you in my army, JMO. Anyways, all right. I have one more just for fun. There, about in October, there was this movie that came out based on a real life situation called the Reputation Stadium Tour, where people were saying that Taylor Swift is a cult leader and all of these Swifties are a part of her cult.
No, I don't think. I don't think it is. Unpopular opinion. I don't think it is, because I don't think the Swifties think that she's the end all be all. I know your thoughts on her. There's the financial aspect, JMO. There's the financial aspect. Her money is traceable. She's not asking anyone. No, okay. Most of it is.
I mean, apparently she's only with Travis Kelce because he got a $70,000 promotion for winning the AFC championship. I can't even say that with a straight face. Like some radio person tweeted that, and someone was like, yes, this billionaire is only with her partner because he made $70,000.
Okay.
It's like me being with Adam because he found $5 on the ground.
Right.
That's good luck for you right there.
It is. One time we found $300 on the ground outside of the Rocky Stadium, and we went to this. I have to take you there when you come to Colorado. It's like a grown-up arcade. It's so fun.
It's a barcade?
Yeah, I'll take you when you come.
Those are my favorite.
It's so fun. Anyways,
arcades are so much fun.
See, that's the thing when you find cash on the ground. Like, what do? You can't. There's nowhere to turn it into.
I tried to find a police officer. There wasn't anyone around us. Went like 2 blocks, and then
waste of time.
No. Well, when we were like, all right. And then I found we have a good number of homeless people here in Colorado. So I did give them some money to make myself feel better. And then we took the rest and went and played ping pong.
That's the thing. Because you turn it into somebody, all they're going to do is keep it. Because
there's no traceability.
If it's a wallet, even if it's let's say this, even if it's a money clip where it's not just cash laying on the ground, it's got like a money clip on it. It's still hard to like, it's still not traceable. If there was a wallet where I had a license and everything else, like, okay, yeah, you could maybe find the person, and do it. So I see that, but just cash laying on the ground, you give it to the cop. If he doesn't write a report on it, he's pocketing that shit. He ain't turning that shit in.
All right, we need JMO's thoughts on Taylor's the Swifties.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Oh yes, yes.
Right, so before I say that, I will say that one time I found like you said, Amanda, like $200 or $300 at the grocery store laying on the ground, and like I just was overwhelmed with guilt. I was like, maybe this is like that's all the money this person has to buy groceries or something. So I turned it in because I was like, man. But if it was like in the middle of the street, in the middle of nowhere, like would definitely go in my pocket. I'd probably do something nice with it, with part of it, like you did, right? But yeah,
I get that. I get that side of it. I do, but I don't trust that thing is I don't trust the person you turn it into to do the responsible thing. That's the only issue I have with turning in just blank cash. But I do agree with you. I wouldn't want to like inadvertently take somebody's last $300 for groceries, but
yeah, you got to eat, man. All right, so Taylor Swift. Wait,
before we start, is your kiddo a Swiftie?
A little bit. She's not obsessed, but she's she likes some of her songs. She's seen the Eras tour movie or whatever.
Mine's getting there. It's scary.
Yeah, I mean,
sending her all the stuff.
I don't. There's a lot of stuff about like Swiftie culture and like that I don't agree with. I've grown to like a little bit of the music, but overall, I feel like it's not a cult. I do think that there are like she's like putting out some values or things out there that I might not agree with, that I feel like some of the women, or particularly teenagers, younger women are getting like, I'm not even going to use the word brainwashed, but like, putting some ideas out there that I might not agree with, but that's my take.
That's fair. Yeah. I don't like the idea of like, that's the end all be all of what I see, what's going on with my daughter is like surrounding her world with everything that has to do with that person, and that's what scares me, because you want your child or whatever to be a independent thinker, and maybe take a few of these things, and all the right things, of course, and piece them together to be the best person. And I fear that if you're following one person, you end up adapting that person's mistakes. It's kind of similar to a mom and a dad. If you're fortunate enough to live in a household where you have a mom and a dad, you don't want to completely follow all of mom's stuff or completely follow all of dad's stuff, because they have bad quirks or bad habits that you don't want them to pick up. And if the child could pick up the best of both habits, and that's not just for parents or both in the household, that's having both parents in your life, really, to clarify that. But it's just that fear of them taking all of that one person's traits, the bad and the good, and adapting them is like not completely, what you want. But if that person's a perfect being, which we know none of those exist, then I guess it'd be okay.
I am a Swiftie. I didn't start off that way. I've liked Taylor Swift from the beginning. When she sang country, and then really liked her when she had her Welcome to New York album. That's not what it's called. It's the 1980 album.
1989.
89, yeah. And then I kind of was like unsure. And then I watched this awesome Netflix special called Miss Americana. And I was like, oh, I actually kind of like, she's been through a lot. Okay. I will never, ever pay $500 to sit in nosebleeds for any concert unless the Beatles have somehow come back to life. And
that's crazy.
Adam and I are talking about going to visit my brother-in-law in Europe. And I was like, oh, Adam, Taylor Swift is playing at the stadium. Let's see if we can get tickets. I didn't think we would, but they were like 600 euros. And I was like, no, never, for one ticket. And then I got curious. And so I was looking, I'm like, okay, well, what's the cheapest ticket we can find in Europe? And there's one if we wanted to go to Krakow in Poland for 400 euros.
Oh, you said crack house.
No,
it is. It's Krakow.
It's an expensive crack house.
Yeah, it's an expensive crack house. And so it just made me chuckle. But I know people who will, and I appreciate that. And, I do think that I like her songs. She has some songs that I really love. And it was funny because Angela and my best friend, and Angela came too. They came to visit in September and they brought their kiddos, but one of their kiddo loves Taylor Swift. The older one probably likes Taylor Swift too, but I don't think as much as the younger one.
I was going to say, she's not into it as much as the little one is. Your child is.
Yes, my little kiddo. The younger one drove with Adam and I to Golden. Everyone else was in the van. And I was like, oh, do you want to listen to Taylor Swift? And she's like, yeah. Adam was like, no. And I was like, 2 versus 1, you lose. Well, he actually was like, oh, I actually kind of like this. So now Adam is a huge Swiftie. Loves Taylor Swift. I think it also helps that Adam loves NFL. And so with her dating Travis Kelce, he likes that, but he listens to her music. He thinks that she's talented. He likes the bass. But I think you're right.
A way about her.
There is a point. I think you guys brought there's a point of idolization that we've seen throughout time, right? We saw it with people with Elvis. We saw it with the Beatles, Madonna,
Michael Jackson.
Right. I'm trying to think like an artist.
It's just Britney, the whole celebrity.
Britney is a great example.
The whole celebrity culture in general, like idolizing.
Yeah, and at what point does it become like I think it's really funny that so this is also going to be part of our topic, but I said maybe we'll save it for next week. And we could talk about it more, but this idea of like this fear that she's like revolutionizing people to like sway a certain way political, because she posted on her Instagram in November, go out and vote, or don't forget to register to vote. And there was like, I don't remember the percentage number, but there was this huge increase of people who voted because she does hold a ton of power and a ton of influence.
It's just crazy though. Taylor Swift said to do it.
Right. That part is the part that is a little faulty / worrisome. And I was someone in her late 30s. Sorry, I just threw up in my mouth a little thinking about that. I don't know if I'm as influenced, but for someone who is 17 or 13 or 9,
yeah,
I could see that worry. What I will say is I do think she has positive things on like certain aspects that like maybe Angela and I didn't have as kids when we looked up to women singers. We're going to say, J-Mo.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, I encourage everyone to vote. So like, I'm not against her telling people to vote. And like, if you think about, I think it was MTV back in the day, they had the whole Rock the Vote.
I was going to bring that up. We had Rock the Vote, and it's like, oh, this person's cool. They vote. I should vote too.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm cool with that. It's where it would get scary is if she was like, vote for this one party for this reason, and then take all of her fans to do something like that. That's when that level of power can get scary. Where she's like, okay, everybody who hates fucking Jake Gyllenhaal, let's all vote for this political party, and then bam, I'm going to write a song about it.
Or
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh.
all he did was keep her scarf. I love it. She has this great song called "The Man," which is like one of my favorites. If you haven't heard it, I recommend it. But yeah,
I haven't listened to the T-Swizzle in a while, so I don't know any of the newer stuff. I think the last thing I listened to was the first like re-release of Taylor's versions of stuff.
Yeah, Reputation should be out soon, and then I think we're done. I don't know if you all know what we're talking about, but her company, so the record company that she was producing with, got purchased by what is his name? Sean something. Anyways, she has beef with him. Like, he's not a good man. He's quite abusive. Like, there's lots of things against him from like Christina Aguilera and like Kesha, Ariana Grande, etc. So she was pissed that he was able to purchase her music and basically own it. And then Kelly Clarkson randomly said to her, like in a tweet, well, just re-release it on your own. Like, if you own the songs, you can re-release it. So she made her own versions called Taylor versions. And she basically re-released her music. And some of the songs, they sound a little bit different because he doesn't own the music. He just owns the record. So she re-released it. And she made millions. I mean, like billions, because people are just buying the re-release versions.
What was the one that turned out? She made it into a 7-minute long one. The Jake Gyllenhaal song
on Red. The re-release of Red, and the song is what is it called? All Too Much, All Too Time,
All Too Well, All Too Well,
All Too Well. I know my sister's screaming. All Too Well.
I was like doing the lyrics in my head. I'm like, what is it?
Yeah. So my favorite album is 1989. It was Taylor's version. So. But anyways, good for her. I appreciate that she's able to kick butt. I think it's really funny how there are people who hate her. I have a friend who hates Taylor Swift and like gets annoyed that I like Taylor Swift. And I'm like, it's music, get over it. Like, in my mind, I'm always a part of the Beehive, and Beyonce will always be my number one boo-boo. But I like Taylor. Like, not enemies. So. I also like Kesha. I used to hate Kesha. And then Kesha was like,
Kesha's pretty good.
I'm going to write this song. And I was like, girl, you do that.
She has a supernatural type show, a ghost show. Have you seen that, Kesha?
No, I'm going to have to watch it. On what channel?
Yeah, she goes and goes to haunted places and like investigates them and shit.
Oh my God, I'm down for that.
Really? I figured you would have known that.
Ghost show. But Conjuring Kesha? Oh, yep, I'm absolutely watching it. It's on.
And she, each episode, she has different people.
I hate the name of it so much.
The first one had Whitney Cummings was with her.
Oh my gosh, JoJo. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm totally watching this.
Yeah, Karen Elson. Big Frida.
I love Kesha.
Yeah, it's on Travel Channel.
I also, on my break, read the Britney Spears book. Poor Boo. That, my heart for her.
Dancing with knives and shit.
It may actually, honestly, like, after reading her book, I understand a little bit more on why she is how she is.
Oh, yeah?
I'm like, okay, I get it.
Maybe have to do an episode in a lightness.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask my friend Brooke, who's like, loves the Britney so much, to come on and chat about Madame Spears. So.
I mean, yeah, a lot of conspiracy up with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how like maybe we shouldn't have freed her. Like maybe she was good. So, all right. Well, that's my like little welcome back. Thanks for playing along and talking through. And yeah.
Definitely lighthearted. Loved it. All right. Well, I want to thank JMO for joining us again. It's always a pleasure to have you on. And definitely
Chris
anybody
just
else
enjoys having another XY chromosome. XX chromosome. Which ones do men have?
Another boy on the
XY.
Some testicles.
We have XX.
He enjoys some testicles.
Yeah.
I'm glad my testicles could be a part of this.
Glad to have you. If anybody else wants to come on and chat with us, just give us a ring and we'll definitely think about something to have you on. Or if you have a topic you want us to cover, absolutely let us know. We're definitely looking for ideas. As always, rate and review on your platform of choice. I can't say how much that helps us out. It gets us up on other people's feed and their algorithms and gets us going. So look.
Is Christopher talking?
Yeah, I think we lost his audio.
This is what he said. He said, just rate and review us. And it really helps us so we get more money. And then Amanda can buy more shoes and our purses. And we can finally get JMO the new hip that he needs.
I think I'm back now.
You are.
Am I back? Yeah. I'm fucking around with my thing and I turn the volume down. Rate and review on your platform of choice. As I said, please. Our Instagram is TWRD_podcast. And thanks again, Amanda, for sharing. And we'll see everybody next time.